Well, coming up on this episode of My Retirement Clarity, we're talking about the things you can control. We know things are crazy. Markets are crashing sometimes. Taxes are shifting year to year. Congress is waffling on Social Security once again. But you can't control any of that. Stressing over that will not help at all. What can you control? What moves the needle for your retirement? We'll talk about that next.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple, to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Welcome in. This is My Retirement Clarity. Glad to have you on the show once again with Lee Perkins of J.L. Perkins Wealth Management there in beautiful Macon, Georgia. You can book a time to chat with Lee at talkwithjlp.com. So Lee, talking about some things you can control. We know this year is a great example of there's a lot that's not within our control, right? And I know a lot of people get hung up on those headlines and what's happening around them, even though no matter what you do or say, you can't do anything about it.
Man, I thought this year had gotten off to a pretty easy start. Nothing in the news, no election fallout or anything going on with government. I thought it's been pretty smooth sailing, unless you watch the news, then it's all there. So, yeah, it's everywhere you look, there seems to be something that's happening in the world that you're like, are you kidding me? But here we are.
And I know as we kind of jump into this, we got 4 things that you can control in retirement and some things to be thinking about. But the control is a big part of why you sit down and build a plan, right, Lee? Because this is an opportunity to take control of your financial future and put things in place that you have a hand in.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, life is full of decisions, and there are things that we can control, and there's some things that are beyond our control. And so in meeting with the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of retirees that I've met with over my career, and then I think we have 325, 350 clients at this point. The people that are have the most amount of anxiety as related to what's going on in the world are the people who worry too much about the things that they have absolutely zero control over. Mm-hmm. So today we're just going to talk about what you can't, kind of separating what you can control and what you can't control. And then just once you've done that, just live your life and don't worry about the things that you cannot control.
All right, so as we go through this again today, remember, talkwithjlp.com, great place to be again. Having that conversation and talking through these things you can control. But 4 areas that are out of our control, we're going to kind of spin these for you and talk about what you actually can control and have a hand in. So first off, I know the market, right? We cannot control what happens in the market. As much as we wish we could, it's out of our control. But you can control how much market risk you expose yourself to. That's an important part of building a portfolio, correct?
Exactly. And it's not an all or nothing game. And I think this is where a lot of people get into trouble, is they let the term market volatility or anything that's going on in the world impact their decision on how they handle their money. Now, early on in my career, if somebody came into the office and I'm doing a whiteboard presentation and they've got $1 million, I'd draw $1 million up on the top of the board and I'd put a square around it, and then I would draw arrows coming out on each side and draw 2 squares under that. And I would put market risk and no market risk. And I would say, all right, you tell me how much you're comfortable in each one of these boxes. And somebody would say whatever the amount is. And then once they give me that, then we would dig a little bit deeper. Okay, so now let's talk about risk. You've already defined, well, I don't want to risk this money. This is my safety net. Go over to the risk portion, and we would dial that down a little bit and say, okay, well, how much would you like? Some risk, kind of medium risk, and higher risk. And then we would dig a little bit deeper on those portions. And that seems to make sense. Now, since I guess maybe over the last 4 or 5 years, I've now used a financial house illustration where I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just drawing a simple 3-level house, a foundation, which has no market risk, walls, which has some market risk, and the roof, which has higher market risk. So at the end of the day, we can't control what happens in the market, but we can put money in each level of this house, and we can have a pretty good idea of what the outcome will be based on how we allocate that money. So it's not, when you retire, you don't have to put all of your money into the stock market. And unfortunately, I think some people are like, they're either pro stock market or against it. And that's why lots of times people will retire and take all their money and put it in a bank. And that's baffling. So it is not an all or nothing game. It all depends on how much risk you are comfortable with. And that's what we do here in our office, Ben, is we help, once we build that hypothetical financial house, we're going to put that into our various softwares and show them what it looks like. Show them how each level of that financial house behaves in certain markets. And that's what I think people really sort of resonate to. And so that's why we've been using the financial house for years.
Yeah, it's a great way to approach it. And again, it's a great way to approach the market as well, because it can be stressful watching what happens day in and day out. All right, you can't control how long you live. We know that, at least for the most part. Obviously, you can be healthy, you can exercise, you can take care of yourself. But what you can control in terms of financial planning is how much emphasis you're putting on creating lifetime income streams. So how do you go about putting these income streams together, Lee?
Yep. Well, so again, like I've said on previous shows, we want to determine where the money is coming from, specifically where income streams are created. For most people, Social Security plays a big role in guaranteed lifetime income. Some people, now a fewer amount nowadays, are still fortunate enough to get a pension, whether that's a private company, which certainly are way, way fewer than there were 10 or 15 years ago, but it could be a state pension or a government pension. If you're fortunate enough to have access to a pension, count yourself lucky, because those are going away. And I would imagine in 15 years, certainly it is going to be a very, very rare thing. Mm-hmm. So if income is your need, if that is your major concern, typically I would tell you, Ben, that is a huge concern for people right when they retire. And then after they retire, once they've been retired a little bit and they know how it works, having guaranteed income check, like maybe a pension or something like that, it's not as important, because they realize that it just works and their needs change over time. So that, this, like years and years ago, people were really high on guaranteed income lifetime annuities. You don't really hear that much anymore, because people want more flexibility than just trading in a lump sum of money for future promise of income. So we see less of a focus on a guaranteed lifetime income stream, because if I can fill that gap and say, hey, I've got to have $2,000 a month to fill my income gap, we can create that most of the time with some strategic planning on the distribution side of things. So yeah, just again, you got to take into consideration how long you're going to live. What is that gap? What are my income needs? Are they going to change as I get older? And certainly they will. So that's why most of the time you don't want to just say, hey, I need $2,000 a month the rest of my life. Because $2,000 a month might work well now, right, but you might not need $2,000 a month in 10 years. Yeah. You might need $3,000 a month, or you might need $1,500. So flexibility is key when creating those income streams. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase: How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
All right, I got a couple more things here that you can control in retirement. And let's talk taxes. I know we talk taxes a lot. It's such an important part of getting prepared for the future and knowing exactly what you're going to have in retirement. And we know we can't control what the tax rates are going to look like. We don't even know what they're going to look like at the end of this year, potentially, Lee. But you can control how much of your wealth you leave in places that will be taxed in the future.
Yeah, so most people honestly just don't know enough about taxes. And if they're like me, I hate taxes too. And people want to put their head in the sand and just sort of ignore it and hope the problem will go away. As you can tell by all of the chaos that's going on right now with the budgetary process, DOGE, As we record this, we're the first part of June, and we got a little scuttlebutt between Trump and Elon on governmental spending. That's all related to taxes. I'm a big proponent of the fact that taxes are going to increase in the future. As much as I would have liked for Doge to maybe do more than it wound up doing, and maybe it'll continue on and they'll cut some of the fraudulent spending. But boy, there's a lot of people that didn't even like doing that. So politicians are going to do what politicians are going to do, which is, try to get reelected. That's their number one goal. And the other thing is going to be to spend more money each and every year. They all say they want to cut taxes, but at the end of the day, everybody loves spending other people's money. So taxes are going to increase in the future. So you have to be very mindful about where you leave money when you pass away. So can you go ahead and pay taxes today at a known rate versus an unknown rate in the future? I think that's probably a pretty wise choice if you can make that happen. But you got to put a strategy together and work with an advisor that can show you how that works. And that's what we do in our office for people every single week.
All right, last one then, Social Security. This is another big one that people are very fearful about right now, probably have a lot of questions for you about. But we can't control what's going to happen with the program in the future. But we can control, again, how heavily your income plan that you build relies on Social Security.
Yeah, Social Security has really become one of those buzzwords that every politician uses every election cycle. You could probably go back to 1980, 85, 90, 95 and look at the campaign promises. Everybody wants to cut the cost of prescription drugs and make sure we take better care of our older people, but we also want to make sure that Social Security is going to be there for everybody. Now, at the end of the day, we can get this. We see the statements and see the few sentences on the front page that talks about how there's not going to be enough money in the Social Security Trust Fund, or that's going to be, have to make some changes in a few years unless Congress intervenes. At some point, somebody is going to have to make a very difficult decision. Now, that doesn't mean cutting existing Social Security benefits for somebody that is going to get it. I do not think that is ever going to happen. What they're going to do, in my opinion, is adjust how much Social Security somebody is going to get in the future. They'll adjust the dates that you can claim, but either way, it's going to be a political issue. So how can you prepare? Because we can't control all of that. You can control what percentage of your income in retirement is going to be Social Security. So if I can get everybody to where Social Security is just gravy for them, I think that's a really good spot to be in, because then it wouldn't matter what Social Security is. And that would be one less thing that you have to worry about. I sent an email to my clients. This went out to our people on our prospect list, talking about why do people worry about things. Ben, I'm 55 years old. I got a trip coming up this summer going to Canada. And my mom she's already worried to death about me flying to Canada. Now I've flown 7,000 times. But she wants my flight number, when I'm leaving and when I'm getting there. And while I'm in the air, she's going to watch the computer, and she will worry herself sick until I land. And then I have to text her when I get there and tell her I'm okay. My mom is a worrier. And I've told her, you're worrying about things that you have no control over. People that worry about Social Security or any of these kind of things, man, life is too short to worry about the things that you have no control over. So control what you can control, but boy, let that other stuff go away.
Absolutely. Again, you can sit down and begin having conversations about some of these things that are within your control by going to talkwithjlp.com. Book a time to begin that conversation with JL Perkins Wealth Management, but also take advantage of the book Next Phase on a number of these topics we've talked about today: Social Security, taxes, income planning. All these things are part of that next phase of life.
Yep, absolutely. And I feel like we talk about this on every episode, and I think we probably do, but I think it's a very good thing for any listener out there, any listener to the podcast, or if you know us or know anything about us. We are in the business to helping people be better prepared for the next phase of their life, whatever that is. So if you want a copy of this book, just text the word next phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy of that. And I promise you can read it in probably no more than 3 hours, and it's an easy read, and I promise it'll be a real blessing to you.
Yeah, we like to make note of that, because we have a number of people that reach out, and I know you've gotten some positive feedback on not only this book, but the books that we've done in the past as well. So this is an opportunity, and we appreciate you listening to the podcast every week that it comes out, and appreciate that support. So this is just a little something to give back, and hopefully gets your mind thinking a little bit and gives you some things to discuss when you go in and meet with J.L. Perkins Wealth Management there in Macon. So we appreciate you being part of another episode. Again, please subscribe wherever you listen, and we'll talk to you again soon. Lee, have a good week.
Appreciate it, Ben. You too. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now, but I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger, so here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.